G'day guys, I thought I'd start this video off with something a little bit different. We don't ever get asked on our channel, but I follow a lot of mining channels from overseas, and a really common question we see come up is what gear do you guys use? So although we never sort of give instructions on like how to enter a mine or how to climb or anything like that, I thought it might be useful of interest to share with you guys the equipment that we've got. I guess I've staged them, at least the first part, in order of importance. What we've got here is a couple of really good UHF radios, well actually one of the Uniden titaniums, a bit of a cheaper one there. These are absolutely essential for any caving or any underground exploring. So we've got ourselves a little Beauchon 4-gas meter. That will record the whole trip for you and let you sort of go back through when you plug it into a computer and see the air quality, and also let you calibrate the size of the enclosure that you're entering. You know, once you're inside a mine, the volume that you're walking through really doesn't change all that much. Always carry a second one, or at least we do anyway, or sometimes we've got people with us, so that's just a cheap little eBay job. You actually pull the screen out of that one and we can actually get a full 12 hours of battery out of that one. So if this one ever goes dead, we've got this one that we can actually leave on pretty much all day. Massively important when you're hiking, snake proof gaiters. So these just latch onto your boots and then they go up to just below your knee. And of all the dangers of entering caves or abandoned mines, the number one danger is going to be snake bites, and then you need to get yourself a really good GPS watch. So we've got this Phoenix 6X Sapphire, sapphire glass so it won't get nicked up on any of the rocks. We've got some gloves. They've saved us a few times because of these impact protection on the knuckles. Copped a few rocks on the hand, probably would have done some damage to our hands had we not had them. Underground there's quite a few bats. You've got to make the call that if there's too many bats, there's probably time to leave the workings. But if one of those ever hits you in the eye, you would almost definitely lose an eye. And I've spoken a few times about bats. I guess the most important thing is they've got to be respected, but you've also got to have some protection. Now I've got this 3M painters respirator. Now that's probably one of the things that you hear about in mines that's the most misconstrued. So these actually really don't do much at all. They certainly won't increase the percentage of oxygen. They won't actually decrease the percentage of dangerous gases. All they do is just stop particle intake into your lungs. But yeah, these are really just if you're in a mine that has a lot of dust, to stop that dust entering your lungs. Got our knee pads here. We've got our shorter gloves there, just for when we're not really climbing anything vertical. Got our old backpack. We got this addition to the loadout, which is a brand new Oakley kitchen sink it's called. I reckon it looks really cool. It's not going to stay that pretty for long. It's going to get pretty dirtied up. But yeah, it's got all this steel reinforcement and steel cabling through it, and some spots that we can carry some extra carabiners. So that's pretty cool. We've got our original, I love this thing, the original Abandoned Mines, Queensland Abandoned Mines helmet, which is indeed a $20 stack hat from Big W. And all the lights are off eBay, and that one's missing its glass. Actually, the Wanderer lights are pretty good. They're only 300 lumens, so they're like a long throw light, and that's a short throw light. But no suspension whatsoever. Absolutely heavy as anything, and very, very hot. So we upgraded a few months ago to this Vertex vent. That's made by Petzl. And this is one of our favourite bits of kits. This is the Phoenix HM65R light. So that's got like your spotlight and your searchlight. And I think you get about 8 or 9 hours out of a single battery, and we've already bought a second battery. So if anything went wrong underground, potentially we've got about 16 or 17 hours of really good light to rely on. Then we're over to our harnesses. This is our first harness that we bought, just an eBay job. One cool thing about it is you can disconnect it all. So if you're hiking to a cave or a mine and there's a very low, maybe slim to none chance that you're actually going to enter underground workings, you can disconnect the whole top of that and just use it as the leg loops and the waistband on it. We upgraded a few months ago to the Petzl Astrofast, and it's got a built-in chest ascender. And I didn't actually know when I ordered it, but the chest ascender is actually oversized. So it's around about 30 or 40% bigger than the external chest scroll that we used to use. So you can imagine if you're dangling from a rope and you're switching out from your decline to your incline, and you need this to arrest you. You look at the size of the big Prusik in there, it's awesome. I have to say that's probably our favourite bit of kit. We've got some lights here. So when you're picking out your lights, probably the important thing is to research the Kelvin rating before you buy them, because a really cheap light like this one, actually that was still about $100. We got that from BCF, but it just lets off a really bad blue light, so the Kelvin rating's off. And it also suffers with the GoPro of what they call the 50 Hertz flicker, so which means when you're pointing it and you're filming, there's all this banding that runs through your video. So we upgraded to this big guy from Olight. This thing's an absolute tank, probably a little bit heavy, but yeah, this thing is around about 14,000 lumens, and yeah, pretty much makes it like daylight. And it's got your spot and your floodlight. Got another couple of backup torches in there. Onto our filming stuff. So we've got our little, I'm sure you guys have seen this little guy, for just a shaft that just looks really not worthwhile or just way too dangerous. We clip in the little GoPro here, and then we send this little guy down. So we call him our mine probe. And we've got a long throw light and a short throw light. It's also, if you're going to climb a vertical shaft, if you get all the way to the bottom, which we have dozens of times, and there's just sticks and sometimes dead animals and all kinds of gross stuff, it's not really worth it. So that's his little 20-meter twine that comes with that. Got our power banks, cabling, GoPro toaster, because we do a lot of filming when we're out, so you can have some spare batteries in that. If you're ever underground, you probably need to look at getting yourself some glow sticks. So these snap, and you can leave these at junctions. Onto our climbing gear. So we've got our left-handed Jumar, right-handed Jumar. So that's what you use for hand ascending, that loop into these foot tapes. Got a couple of Petzl quick draws, all of our carabiners. We use a Petzl stop. You can probably hear that we're using the brand Petzl a lot, but for people that do this stuff for jobs, generally this is the brand that they rely on. This is what a lot of the mine rescues guys would use. This is what a lot of the SES will use. The Petzl make really, really good gear. And in some situations where you're trusting your life on it, it's worth spending the stuff on all the good gear. Carabiners. The carabiners we prefer to climb with are these, I think these are made by Kong. And these are steel as opposed to some of the aluminium ones, but it's the shape of them that we like. They're these O shaped, as opposed to these. These can cross load a little bit easier. These generally never cross load. So yeah, that's definitely our preferred to loop into our belay device. Ropes. Got heaps of ropes. So I've got some eBay jobs. Now that's less than $1 a meter, but it's still worthwhile investing in if you know that you're going for a bit of a trek and your chances of finding either a vertical climb that you need to do, whether you're into rock climbing or whatever it might be, it's just very light. So they would work really well in conjunction with that harness. Now all that up, that's probably about 2 kilos all up. So still worthwhile having around, but if you have a close look, you can see one little snag. Actually, that's probably just gone through our ascender or our chest crawl a few times. It milks really easily, so yeah, you don't want to put your life on the line with that. Our favourite rope that we've ever had is the Cougar Blue. That's made by Donaghy's. It's Aussie made. It's 24 ply. It is extremely heavy though, so we've got a couple of different lengths. We've got the orange, which is the 75 foot. We've got the blue, which is the 110 foot. That's a beautiful rope. And then we've got this big fella. Now that's made by a company called Yale. Always tie a knot in the end of your rope. That's 24 ply as well, and that's a 210 foot rope. We've got plans next year of just the one climb that we want to use this big fella for, but it weighs a ton. I took that on the adventure to the Dreadnought mine that you guys might have seen a few weeks back, and yes, regretted it instantly. Got our rope bag. So the rope bag is needed for if you're climbing a bit of a scabby mine. You need to keep your rope in the bag, tie a knot in the bottom of it, and that stops your rope from sort of getting snagged up on any metals, twigs, and who knows what's down there. And if you're coming up off the bottom, you don't have a rope bag, and you snag your rope, there's a chance you've actually got to go down there and unhook it, or you've got to ride off a rope. And this good guy was the best part of about $500. So as opposed to a little $30 bag from Aldi, we've got our little rope protector here. So if you're sitting your line over a really nasty collar, you'll need a rope protector to sit over that collar. otherwise you can splice through your rope. This is what we use for training. So this little guy is obviously not what we climb with, but we use this little anchor to throw up through the crotch of a tree, and then you pull your line through, and then you hitch off to the tree to be able to pull your rope back at a later point. Got our safety cones. What are these for? We actually never really thought much about safety until we did our last training course. So the last training course we did was all about ropes rescue. There's a lot of cool stuff in there, but it's also just about keeping safe out in the bush. So these are what you'd use to mark out the area if anything really nasty did happen to you. If you couldn't make it back, or if you got injured, obviously we always travel with someone, and you let someone know where you're going that you trust, and you give them a return to home time. But you'd still mark out where you are. So if you ever had to be rescued, heaven forbid, by a helicopter, these would be visible from the air. We've got all our sling, rock drill stuff. So basically what we've got here is a rotary hammer drill. And then we've got a couple of bits that you can bore into the rock. Now they do need to be special bits. They need to be these bits that have got these 4 little points on them. Otherwise, especially if you're drilling a hole sitting off a rope, you'll go through too many batteries. So we do a pre-drill with an 8mm, and then another drill hole with a 12mm. And we use these big 12mm Dynabolts to set through these little fasteners. And then we'd normally, from there, we'd use our Petzl quick draws. And we use these tow ropes, so they can carry 2.5 tons each. So we'd use a few of those, and then you normally clip in a carabiner, and then that's what you'd set your line to before you go down. So yeah, really important. It's got to be a rotary hammer drill. This one's brand new. We've only used this around the home, but if it's not a rotary and it's not brushless, generally you'll burn it out, or you'll burn through your batteries before you drill your first hole, and you'll only get into something about as hard as sandstone. And now on to our most despised bit of equipment. I've got a couple of shovels here, camping shovels. Sometimes you've got to dig out some workings, might need to stabilise some stuff underground, or you might need to go to the bathroom. So if you're a respectful hiker, you need to make sure you're doing the right thing. These things are terrible. So these things weren't cheap. These things cost about $150. They're called waders. And we didn't really realise when we ordered them they're about 5mm neoprene. And we've only used these once, and we used it right in the peak of summer. I think it was smack bang in the middle of February. And if you're from Queensland and you're watching this, you'd know that that's extremely hot. Now, the day that I used these, I ended up hiking about 10 k's in them. Didn't have any change of clothes with me. The sweat filled up to past my ankles on the boot. And when I left home, I was about 88 kilos. And when I got home, even after drinking 2 1.25 bottles of water, I was below 80 kilos. So this thing had sucked out around about 6 or 7 kilos easily of water weight. And it was the most soul-destroying walk that we have ever been on. And yeah, we've been on a lot. And yeah, if you can imagine the smell of those things on the way home, wasn't pretty. So I think we'll bin them. So yeah, and the last thing's training. We've done a few courses. One course was a complete waste of money. It was more about rock climbing and getting fancy shoes and setting cams, and didn't really translate well to what we did. And then we've done a rappelling course, and then we've done a tops ropes, or what they call a ropes recovery course. That was kick-ass. Not cheap. You've got to do a theory test, you get certified. There's a couple of climbing places down in Brisbane that do those. We would recommend going through Pinnacle Sports. They were really good. Maybe just do it in the winter, because the cliffs that they take you to in summer are pretty brutal. And we're just filming this little bit with our little GoPro Hero 7 Black. Got a little Joby Beamo on the top. Got the Dead Cat mic cover for the windy days. So yeah, that's that. Quite a bit of kit.